Some people have the audacity to ruin my name and call me Grizzard.
He captured in words, in printed and spoken words, mostly humorous, sometimes poignant, often provocative words, always powerful words of personal truths. He captured what it was like to be just who he was, Lewis Grizzard experiencing and observing the second half of the 20th century.
If you've ever been from a small town, you'll always be the same. You'll always kind of look at things kind of sideways, like a dog looking at you sometimes, you know?
Lewis Grizzard and his words captured hearts of millions who saw in him their own struggles, in their own souls, coming to terms with the changing South, the changing nation. It was Jim Minter, then executive editor of the Atlanta Journal, who hired Grizzard in 1968, when Grizzard was barely 22 years old and still one course shy of earning his journalism degree from the University of Georgia, hired him to be a sports editor and writer.
And it was amazing. I mean, it turns out he's a genius. And in no time, he knew more about the sports department in my job than I did.
People are always angry at the paper. People call me all the time and say, why can't newspapers be more truthful and accurate? It don't cost but a quarter, for God's sake.
Minter would always say, Lewis Grizzard could have become one of journalism's greatest newspaper editors, except those words were calling Grizzard to write about all of life. It was Grizzard's mother, Christine, a schoolteacher in the town of Moreland, southwest of Atlanta, who opened his young eyes and heart to the power born in him. She taught a love of words, he once wrote, of how they should be used and how they can fill a creative soul with a passion and lead it to a life's work. So it was, fresh out of college, working in Atlanta, Grizzard was immediately amazing everyone. At the age of 23, he was promoted to executive sports editor of the Journal, the youngest ever at the paper. For the next 6 years, Grizzard helped lead the paper's coverage of historic sports events, such as the Atlanta Braves' own Hank Aaron breaking Babe Ruth's home run record in 1974.
He was a very serious newspaper man. Best person to work with that I ever worked with.
But then, Grizzard accepted an offer from the Chicago Sun-Times and famously regretted leaving his South. So in 1977, Jim Minter rehired him, and Grizzard amazed him again.
And I was looking for a newspage columnist, and he said, well, give me a shot at it. And so he did. And I said, well, Lewis, you've never written a column. And he said, well, give me a shot. And I said, well, write me 3 columns and send them to me, and he did. And they were excellent. One of them, if I ever get back to Georgia, I'm going to nail my feet to the ground. And his column took off like a rocket.
Lewis Grizzard, the star, was born, and for the next 16 years, he wrote about everything Southern and beyond, attracting a national audience in syndication and in books, and on the stage with his monologues. One of the most popular columnists in AJC history, expressing his deeply personal and always unapologetic observations about the speed of the nation's late 20th century transformation into 21st century norms of inclusivity and diversity.
It was a real interesting experience working with Lewis in the newsroom.
Alexis Scott, one of the AJC's first African-American reporters, remembers the tensions Grizzard's work could provide, his own attitudes toward minorities and women struggling to evolve, but the arc of his work slowly transcending his own roots and mortality.
And that's how he gained his national reputation. With his columns, which were fabulous, and they were wonderful. He was just such a brilliant writer that you could not deny his brilliance. But he gave the South kind of a voice beyond the stereotype of Southern people that other people in other regions have of Southerners. He told great stories, kind of eye-opening details about the South that people hadn't really seen before.
All right, is any bulldogs in there? Pow!
And Grizzard never strayed far from reporting on his bulldogs. One of his most memorable columns in 1984, after the Dogs lost a football game to in-state rival Georgia Tech. Just 8 words, followed by several column inches of no words at all, summarizing the emptiness of a grieving Bulldog nation. Always writing from a sometimes troubled heart that would ultimately fail him physically at the age of 47, but never spiritually.
Some of you, I realize, have not had your heart surgery yet. A lot of country clubs, you can't get into it, you even had your heart surgery, you know?
He was very courageous. Randy Martin, his heart doctor, says he was the most courageous patient he ever had. And I miss him, and a lot of other people do too.
Lewis Grizzard, reporter, editor, columnist, author. The Atlanta Press Club recognizes and honors Lewis Grizzard with induction into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame.